Hey everyone, my name is Stephen Bay, and I am a local realtor here in the Nashville, Tennessee market, but actually work all over Middle Tennessee. And I'm creating this video today to talk about what I call my for sale by owner marketing toolkit. This is a program I've curated to help people out there, whether I meet them in person or to share it with you here on YouTube and the internet. Some things you can do to really help your home stand out above the rest and get you the best deal possible when you're trying to sell your home as a for sale by owner. Well, why would I do this? I'm a realtor. Why am I trying to help for sale by owners? And I get asked that a lot. And honestly, the reason I'm doing it is because there's just not a lot of people out there that help people sell their home on their own. Most realtors out there are just trying to, they got their hands out, give me your listing, right? And I know that can be really frustrating for a lot of sell by owners out there. Now, of course, I run a business and I would love to work with people who would love to work with me, but I believe in leading with contribution and value. And so there are people who hire me when they're not able to sell on their own. And it's because I've developed that relationship of trust, and I've given them something up front. So that's what I'd like to do for you today. Anywhere out there in YouTube and the internet. I hope this is helpful to you. And so here's a little bit more about what we're going to be talking about. So just a kind of overview, what's the agenda, what's going to be in this video. We're going to be talking about the reality of what it's like to be a for sale by owner. Preparation is going to be probably the key thing we talk about. And then marketing your home. And what that should look like and what you can do to kind of stand out. Okay, so first of all, the reality. What is the reality of being a for sale by owner? Well, I explain it here on this slide of my marketing toolkit. The reality is that most of the calls you receive when you put your home out there in the market as a for sale by owner are going to be other realtors that ultimately are trying to get you to list your home with them. And just a peek behind the curtain, the reason for that is anyone who is essentially in the marketplace and has raised their hand and said, I need to sell my home, you have basically, you've raised that flag. You told every realtor out there that they may very well need your help. And every new agent in the business is essentially taught to cut their teeth on working with for sale by owners. And so that's the reality that you're going to have to face and understand, is that most of the calls you're going to get are from other agents who ultimately want to see if they can list your property. And I'd be one of them. I do call for sale by owners myself, and it's one of the legs of my business. But I always want to make sure just to lead with that contribution to help you understand that this is a reality to be prepared for. You're going to get a lot of calls, and you're going to have to, unfortunately, you have to answer to make sure you're also getting calls from the prospective buyers or an agent that does have a buyer that wants to see your home. So be prepared for that, and make sure you're available to answer your phone. Okay. Now let's talk about preparation. Preparation has many facets to it when it comes to selling your home. The first thing I already mentioned is be prepared to receive a lot of calls and be prepared to be available to take those calls before you've really put your home on the market, because every call is a potential buyer that may be willing to pay you top dollar for your home, and you don't want to miss that. Okay, so there's other things that you want to make sure you're preparing with and preparing for, so that when you do hit the market, or if you're already on the market, things you want to do ASAP, so that you can sell your home within hopefully the first week you're on the market. What we found in this business in the first week or two is really when we see the best list price to sales price ratio. The longer you sit on the market, the more likely the offers you're going to receive are just going to change. The perception that buyers have of your home changes the longer your home sits on the market. So being prepared to hit the market strong is going to give you the best chance of getting a strong offer. Okay. So a few things you can do is pricing it right? And this is one of the major things that affects the ultimate sales price of your home, is the price you hit the market at and where you position yourself. Okay. And so something to think about. And what we found in this industry is that, let's say your home might sell somewhere between 250 and 260. Okay. Well, an interesting thing about the way the market works and the way human psychology works is you could list at 260 and maybe ultimately you have to end up settling for 255. And you could list at 250 and potentially get 260 because you generated so much interest and competition that the buyers feel the urgency to really put forward their best foot forward. And what that means is that pricing it right, not going too high, but of course not going too low either, affects your bottom line big time. And so you want to price it where you're getting exposure as well, and not just by pricing it cheaply, but pricing it smartly. And what do I mean by that? Well, the thing I talk to a lot of people about, and very few people think about this, is this concept called price bracketing. And I'm going to talk about this more throughout my presentation here, but one thing you need to do right from the get-go is make sure you're putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, thinking like a buyer, so that you understand what you're going to get as buyers potentially come to look at your home, place offers on your home, and that kind of stuff. And so you want to be a little bit more objective in that regard, but just put yourself in the shoes of a buyer. Okay. Well, what is a buyer doing when they're looking for homes? Well, they search for homes within certain price ranges, certain price brackets. Okay. So I'll give you an example. What you'll commonly see, so let's say your home is worth somewhere between 290 and 305. You've done a good analysis. And what we know is that buyers tend to look in price brackets from, say, 250 to 300 or 300 to 350. And so you could price your home at 290, 295, 299.9, or maybe even all the way at the top at 305. But where I would advise my clients is, if you're really in that range and 300,000 looks like a really good potential sales price, let's list at 300, not 299.9. Why? Well, can you see why I'm saying that? If you list at 300, everyone that's looking in the bracket from 250 to 300 and everyone that's looking in the bracket from 300 to 350 sees your home. So you've potentially put double the eyeballs on your property of anybody looking within that price range. You list at 299.9 and you've missed everyone that's starting their search at 300,000 over a difference of $100. Okay, so understanding price bracketing, understanding pricing so that your home looks attractive and drives competition. This is what's going to affect you the most in getting the best for your home, especially when it comes to getting an offer quickly and carrying all the leverage instead of the buyers having the leverage if your home sits on the market for a long time. Okay. Next thing to talk about when it comes to preparing is preparing the home itself. Okay. So I've talked to a lot of for sale by owners, and sometimes they'll put their home on the market with the idea that they're putting the feelers out there, and maybe in a couple of weeks they'll have it ready to show. And that's one idea you can do. But honestly, with the way the market works, is especially the way people pursue for sale by owners, your best chance, like I said, is getting a good offer early in the market. And so I recommend, before you even put it on the internet, that you have the home ready to show, where you feel comfortable and confident to take anyone through your home. And you have to remember, you are selling a really expensive asset. A home purchase is, for most people, the most expensive thing they ever buy. And so if you want yours to be attractive to a buyer that's willing to put forward that much money, well, it's a good idea to make sure it's really prepared and before you hit the market, the best that you possibly can. Put your home forward in the best light, right? And that involves how you might market it too, and we'll get to that in a second, okay? Another thing about preparing yourself to understand is documentation. Real estate has a lot of paperwork, and the better you understand it ahead of time, the better position you're going to be in, the better negotiating position you're going to be in, especially up against other buyers, up against buyers agents who have clients they're representing. So a couple things in here I really want to point out is the seller disclosure and the purchase contract. Okay. So One thing you can do to really stand out is have a property condition disclosure already filled out and ready to show potential buyers. Put it with your listing on the internet, have copies of it there in your home that you can hand out to anybody that comes to your home. This is really going to make you look professional and prepared compared to almost all of the for sale by owners out there. And honestly, it's a legal requirement that you disclose the things you know about the property. Some of the things are like the age of the roof, as far as you know, any defects that might be in the property. And so talk to a title attorney, look it up on the internet, see if you can get a copy for yourself of the property condition disclosure. If you haven't lived in the property, it would be the property condition exemption. Get a hold of that, and that's, like I said, going to make you stand out. The other big one is the purchase contract. Here in Tennessee, we call it the purchase and sale agreement. There's a lot to this. You know, like I said, here in Tennessee, it's a 10-page document, and there's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of places to check or not check contingencies. Understanding this document and what it means to you when you get an offer ahead of time is really going to help you in your negotiating position, but also help make sure that you are not being taken advantage of, especially by a buyer's agent. Because one thing you have to understand is you may be offering a commission to a buyer's agent, but they don't represent you. They represent their client, the buyer. And so their job is actually to see what they can do to get their client the best deal possible. And where they're especially going to do that is in some of the terms within the purchase and sale agreement. So they may ask you for title expenses and you miss the line item on there. And then if you sign that contract and you didn't want to pay for the buyer's title expenses, well, your signature's on the paper and that's coming out of your proceeds at closing. So understanding that, especially the contingencies as well, is really going to help you, like I said, with your negotiating position and with your bottom line. Don't let yourself get taken advantage of. And if you don't have the time or wherewithal to just kind of go through and figure out all this paperwork, make sure you've hired yourself a good closing company, a good title attorney, because this is not an area that you want to mess around with. It can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars not knowing the paperwork. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Now let's talk about marketing your home effectively. So another thing as far as preparation, right? Big thing is your photography. Okay. So cell phones nowadays can take really good photos of your property, but if you think about it, there are some professional photographers out there that, depending on the size of your home, they may be $100, $200, and they're going to put your home in the best light possible. If you're selling a $400,000, $500,000 home, whatever it is, remember, there's a lot of money at stake here. So market your home effectively, get really good pictures, and understand how you should present those pictures. The order you put them on Zillow and wherever else you're listing them is important. There's a lot to think about when it comes to photography. So get a professional on your side, or make sure you have a great cell phone that takes really high quality images, and really think about how you're going to present your home in the best light possible. Have all those photos ready before you go live. Okay. Another thing is any of your other marketing. Make sure you're ready you have a plan to blast it out there to any Facebook groups that are local for sale by owner Facebook groups, Craigslist, wherever you're going to blast this out. Tell everybody you know, my home's going live for showings on this day. Already have signage ready and purchased that you can put in your yard the day you go live, as well as, if your neighborhood allows it, some pointer signs that are pointing the way to your house. You don't want the only thing advertising your home in the neighborhood just to be that sign. If you're allowed to put out some pointer signs, do it. Have them purchased ahead of time so that you're prepared to market your home effectively. Okay. Next thing to think about is showing the home once people actually come and see it. And so there's a couple of different things to think about. And first of all, if you have a buyer's agent there with their buyer, I would really recommend you kind of stay back at a distance and let them just really look at your home and get a chance to feel comfortable, especially with the buyer, to feel comfortable looking around the home, because they're trying to imagine what if it's their home. And with you, the seller there, it's harder to imagine that. They don't want to feel like they're being having somebody looking over their shoulder, but you being there is a reminder that somebody else owns this place, and we want to remove that impediment if we can. So give, as much as you can, allow the buyer to imagine that it could be their home. And if a buyer and a buyer's agent are there, hand them any paperwork that you've prepared that talks about the property, and then just kind of stand back and let them look at the home. And that's going to give you the best chance of getting a good buyer who feels comfortable with your place. Okay. Perhaps they don't have an agent and they need somebody to tour the home. Just, think about what you say. They may have some negative things to say. Try not to take it too personally, remain objective, and just highlight the features and benefits of the property. And if you don't get too defensive, the buyer will ultimately walk out of there with a better impression than if you did. And so that's what I'd highly recommend, handling it that way. And I hope you can see the value in that, because buying a home is an emotional thing. And so removing any of those emotional impediments will make it more likely you get a strong offer. Okay. Next thing to talk about is, what about the people that are actually going to come look at the home? What can you do to pre-qualify them? Well, one thing that us agents do for our clients is, and hopefully any buyer's agents that may bring in their clients buy your home, they do a pre-qualification process, and they should be making sure that their client is actually approved through a lender to make this purchase, or they have the funds available and they can actually make this purchase. Okay, so that's the advantage you have of working with a realtor that's bringing a buyer by, is the realtor doesn't generally want to waste their time either, so they've likely already gone through that process with their client if they're a strong agent and know what they're doing. But one thing you want to do, especially if you're dealing with an unrepresented buyer, is say to them, hey, I'd be glad to show you my house, but here's my email, or you can text it to me as well. If you could just send me over some sort of proof of funds or pre-qualification showing that you are definitely able to purchase this home, because I want to make sure that I'm showing my home to people who can actually buy it. Because you're going to have tire kickers, you're going to have people looky-loos from your neighborhood potentially wanting to see it because they just want to know what they're competing against if they sell their house. So pre-qualify your buyers, and especially if you really just don't want to waste the time doing a bunch of showings with people that aren't really interested in buying your house. Okay. Next thing to talk about is negotiation. So there's a bit of a tipping point when it comes to your ability to negotiate strongly on the sale of your property. So one of the things that helps is understanding the documentation. Like I told you earlier, if you understand the documentation, you can't be taken advantage of by a buyer or buyer's agent who does. Okay. But when it comes to being able to negotiate effectively, the longer your home sits on the market, the less likely you have negotiating power. You lose leverage the longer you sit on the market. Okay, so imagine your home's on the market for one day with multiple buyers interested and they're all placing offers. Guess who has all the leverage? You, the seller. If it's in that first week. If your home sits on the market for several weeks, you have to start to understand like where your leverage points are going to be. Okay, so negotiating your property effectively, you have to understand leverage, the types of offers you're going to receive, understand the contract, and understand that you have to sell your property not once, but 3 times, okay? And you have to negotiate through each one of these processes. So first sale is the offer on your home where you go under contract, and everybody understands that process. You got to show the home, get a buyer to fall in love with it, place an offer. Okay, but that's only the first time you have to sell your home. The second time is the inspection. Now, anybody who purchases a home, almost anybody, there's an occasional person who doesn't, but they're going to want to get your home inspected and look under the hood. And this can be a really frustrating time for a seller because, an inspector is going to nitpick the home. They always find 50, every inspection report I've ever seen is over 50 pages long, and they're always pointing out all these little things. Sometimes there's big things, and this can be a point of frustration, but it's another point where you potentially have to negotiate with the buyer and keep them at the table purchasing your home, because when we talked about contingencies earlier, almost every contract has a contingency where the buyer can back out, not purchase your home, receive any earnest money they put forward back to them. And then you've got to go back on the market and you've lost your buyer. So knowing how to negotiate through that is going to be really important. Getting a pre-home inspection might be a good idea if you want to really be prepared, because then you'll know what any other inspectors are going to see and you can prepare for that ahead of time. Okay, the third time your home has to sell is the appraisal. So the thing about the market right now is all across the United States, it is a major seller's market. We're hearing all sorts of stories of cash buyers offering way over asking price and they're waiving the appraisal. But not everybody gets that. However, many people are getting offers that are over asking price. And so one thing to understand, this is why understanding the purchase and sale agreement is so important, right? Let's say you list it at $250 and you get a bunch of buyers offering you money and somebody offers you $280, but they've got a loan, all right? Well, the lender is going to make the buyer pay for an appraisal on your property. And when we have property offers, purchase offers exceeding asking prices like this in the state of the market, it's much more likely that an appraiser is going to look backward and say, well, the real market value of this is $270, not $280. Okay, what that means for the buyer is they've got to come up with $10,000 that the lender is not going to loan them. Or they might just back out and not purchase your home. Or the third option is you renegotiate with them, perhaps bring your price down to match the appraisal or somewhere in between. And this is yet another point of negotiation that affects you. So understanding how appraisal contingencies work, where your leverage is, if you can go back on the market if you had 10 offers on day one, because maybe you just go with a cash offer next time that waives the appraisal. But understanding the offer, the inspection, and the appraisal, you have to get through all three of those sales and negotiate effectively to really get the best price for your home. That's an important thing to understand. The real estate sale does not end once you go under contract, and I hope that makes sense. Okay. A few other things to know about is just knowing your buyer. This is also an important part of understanding your negotiating power. So, pardon me, my nose itches. Understanding motivation. Okay. Motivation is a big factor in negotiation. So if you listen for things, if you hear the buyer needs to be in town really quickly and be settled to get to their job, you have more leverage now because you know the buyer's needs. Also knowing, do they really have the money to pay your asking price? Like I said, you want to pre-qualify your prospects. Knowing if they have an agent. If they have an agent, they have some professional guidance, which can be better. But if they have an agent, they have somebody negotiating on their behalf. And so you have to be prepared to defend yourself against anywhere where they might want to take advantage of you. So understand these things. You want to know your buyer. You want to know their motivation. And this is going to help you negotiate that much more effectively throughout the whole process. Okay. Something else to think about. Now, vacant homes can definitely sell. Sometimes it's easier for a person to imagine themselves in a vacant home, but before you've sold the property, you might consider staying in. Maybe you're considering moving out before you sell. I don't encourage you to do that. Studies have shown, it says it right here, that it's more difficult to sell a home that is vacant. If it can look, kind of forgotten. And one of the things is if you live there and you've got decent furniture, and you've made it a place to call home, it might look more homey and essentially staged if you just got everything out. They can see that this is a place people live and they can imagine putting their own furniture there, but it's already staged. Okay. But if you have already moved, what you've also essentially told the buyers is that you got to sell this place because now, you might be holding another mortgage or something like that. Maybe that's an erroneous thought. Maybe you've already got this paid off or whatnot, but you've created that perception for the buyer and potentially the buyer's agent that you've got to sell this place. So if you live there and don't necessarily need to move right away, or you're not carrying two mortgages, that's another point of leverage you have. Okay. This is a big one. know why you're selling, and keep it to yourself. Okay. So I talked about trying to find out what the buyer's motivation is. Anything you can listen for and hear, pay attention to, take notes as far as what the buyer needs. That's a smart thing to do. And that's what I would do for you if I was your listing agent, right? I want to understand our buyer so we know where our points of leverage are. All right. But understand that the buyer and the buyer's agent are going to be trying to do the same thing for you. And so understand yourself, know why you're selling it, but make sure you're keeping that under wraps. Because you don't want that to become a point of leverage used against you, okay? So things that sellers must absolutely know, okay? First-time buyers, they're gonna be inexperienced. Corporate relocation buyers, most are unaware of the area, have limited time to buy, and often contractually obligated to use a certain real estate company. No money down buyers. Agents do not work with these TV dreamers. Unfortunately, most approach private sellers hoping to find one who's desperate to sell at any price. So another thing to understand about being out there is that you're going to get offers from investors who believe your home's worth more than what they're going to offer. You know, they have a whole spreadsheet, a whole way they do things where they know if they pay you X%, repair it, do whatever, they can make money. And you don't want to be taken advantage of in that way. So understand these different types of buyers. The best type of buyers is the move-up buyers. Up to 97% of these buyers are actually sellers whose homes are currently listed on the MLS. They're working with an agent for the purpose of selling their existing homes, and after they sell, they become a move-up buyer and use the same agent to find their next home. Okay. Then you got the bargain hunters. They know private sellers are trying to save their real estate commission, right? And so you have to think about this. I know you're selling on your own. Most likely, the most common answer is you're just trying to save at least that listing agent commission. And that makes sense. I think anyone who can do it successfully and knows what they're doing is doing a smart thing. I know sometimes us listing agents can be a necessary evil. Some of us are worth our money too, but you don't know what you're getting when you hire listing agents. So I understand why you're going for sell by owner, and you have to watch out for these bargain hunter buyers, because what they're going to attempt to do is they know you're saving that commission, so they're going to see if they can get essentially that brought down off of the price, and then you end up selling your home without an agent, and it didn't really give you any benefit because you didn't even save the commission. So just something to be aware of. You're definitely going to have people that know what you're saving and want to try to take advantage of that. So that's everything I wanted to tell you guys. I hope this was valuable to you. If you ever need any help, feel free to reach out, comment on this page on YouTube in the comments section, or reach out to me at my contact info here. I'd be glad to help. And I hope this, like I said, I hope this was helpful to you. And I'll see you guys next time.